Good morning, everybody. And we're here for the antibiotics and meat signing ceremony. Thank you, Mayor Lee. In the simplest of terms, this ordinance asks large grocery chains to disclose the antibiotics in the meat and poultry products that are sold. Families and consumers should have the right to know about how their meat is produced. Prior to joining the Board of Supervisors, I worked in healthcare at UCSF. It was there that I spent time studying health trends, including antibiotic resistance. Antibiotic-resistant infections are a public health emergency as they kill thousands of Americans each year. And most troublesome is that in a recent report by the World Health Organization, they found that the world is running out of antibiotics to fight antibiotic-resistant infections. This ordinance will help stem the tide of antibiotic-resistant infections and provide consumers with information about the antibiotics use policies and practices behind meat products sold in San Francisco stores. The response at the federal and state levels is inadequate. In San Francisco, when we see a public health challenge or problem, we seek to respond to it. This ordinance is about doing what we can as a city to respond to a growing issue and keep more San Franciscans safe and healthy. Families and consumers should have the right to know about how the meat they are producing, that they are purchasing was produced. With this legislation, we are doing our part to reduce antibiotic-resistant infections here in San Francisco and protect public health. I want to share my sincere gratitude to the individuals, city departments, and organizations that have helped in this legislative effort. Particularly, I want to thank the National Resources Defense Council for all of their work in tracking this issue and bringing it to the attention of the city, especially Avi Carr. Special thanks to the Department of Environment, the Department of Public Health, for their collaboration on this ordinance and recognizing not only the environmental health issues, but the public health implications as well, especially for those with immune deficiency. I would also like to thank and introduce someone who has provided enormous support for environmental and public health issues. Mayor Ed Lee consistently works to protect the health of San Franciscans and has been a great supporter in the fight against antibiotic-resistant infections. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Lee.
Thank you, Supervisor. First of all, I like to eat. What am I eating these days? I think that really is the question that is derived and studied, and certainly I think Supervisor Sheehy has done his homework as now becoming one of our, if not the resident expert on our Board of Supervisors. I want to thank Supervisor Safai for being here as well, and the other board members who joined in Jeff's leadership to focus on a growing problem that he's identified. There are literally thousands of people who are consuming meats and poultry and other food products under the growing inspections that we uncover that are having antibiotics through their evolution grow through misuse and through overuse. And so this is a modest, I think, first step, Jeff, until we have more information. And it's a proven approach. It is a right-to-know approach. It is an approach that the board, the mayor, and we all agree, we simply need more information to really find out what the evolution of this bacteria is doing in the market, in the supply chain, and when our kids and our families and ourselves eat these products, what is happening with this bacteria. So that if we have that information, if we know where it's coming from, we can then hook it up to abuse and misuse that might be happening in the market. We don't know, but we're asking the large grocery store chains to comply with this new ordinance. And it is informed by our medical doctors, our public health, our environmental department, and natural resources Defense Council has been working very closely. But it wouldn't come to this point unless we had people doing the research. And I want to take the opportunity to thank not only Supervisor Sheehy, but his own staff that's worked hard on it, because I'm sure you had to answer a lot of questions before we begin imposing a lot more responsibilities on our businesses. But we are doing it for good purpose. And this purpose is a serious one. It's a health-related one. We don't mess with our health. We have to have better health outcomes for our people. And if we find data that suggests to us 23,000 people a year in this country are dying and hundreds of thousands are infected by these antibiotic-resistant infections or things that are evolving by overuse and misuse, we have to do something about it. But it begins with informing ourselves. And I know Supervisor Sheehy has done this before when it came to HIV and AIDS. He informed us, he informed the public, he informed his friends, and then we became that much more smarter about our legislation and the things we had to do. And then came the resources to have to do something about that disease. On this one, we have to do the same thing, and we have to be as preventive as possible so it doesn't proliferate. And that's the work of all these agencies coming together. So it's my privilege to, again, sign legislation that strikes at the beginning of something before it really happens in epidemic proportions. But when it comes to health challenges, to be smart about it and to do it early. So thank you, Jeff, for your leadership. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor Lee. Next, I'd like to introduce Barbara Garcia, the Director of San Francisco's Department of Public Health and a national leader in public health, both our department and Director Garcia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lee, Mayor Lee and Supervisor Sheehy. The Department of Public Health is responsible for consumer and food safety in the city. So this ordinance really supports our ability to protect the food that people eat. The right to know if your food has antibiotics is a really essential part of consumer rights. Overuse of antibiotics, we know, cause people to stay in the hospital longer. It also impacts their ability to heal from diseases. And so our ability to really manage the amount of antibiotics that people use really helps them once they get they have the resistance to antibiotics. There are many medications that they cannot use because of that. And that really inhibits their ability to heal and also to get better from diseases. So our ability to inform consumers of their food and what's in their food is one of the most essential protections that we can provide for the people in San Francisco. I really want to thank our Director of the Environment, Deborah Raphael, who is not here today, but she's been one of the major leaders in San Francisco with this. And so I really want to thank her and all the leaders here today and the physicians who are here to support us today. Thank you, Mayor Lee, for signing this ordinance. The city and San Francisco residents will benefit from this ordinance. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Did you want to say nope? We wouldn't have gotten this through. It was unanimous, so I'm really proud of all of my colleagues for joining in, especially my friend Supervisor Safai. And thank you, Barbara. Lastly, we have Jonathan Kaplan from the National Resources Defense Council, which has been such a great partner. So, Jonathan, there you go. Sorry.
Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy. Hi. I think this switched off. Can you hear me all right? There we go. So every once in a while, a local government stands up and provides leadership for the entire nation. This is one of those moments. The city ordinance that is being signed today would turn a light on in the darkness that has shrouded the industrial livestock industry. For the first time, San Franciscans will have access to information to enable them to select meat from companies that are using antibiotics safely and responsibly and move away from those that don't. The ordinance, I want to point out, is unique in the nation. There's really no other federal law today that requires livestock producers to disclose this information. There's a new state law in California that's going to require some data reporting, but it's not expected to require individual companies to disclose their own individual antibiotic use. Until today, there has been no reporting of antibiotic use by individual companies anywhere in the country. For decades, this industry has operated in secrecy, and that stops here. I want to point out that the need for this legislation is more urgent than ever. rising rates of antibiotic-resistant bacteria now threaten modern medicine as we know it. Antibiotic resistance results when we use antibiotics again and again. Some bacteria become resistant, they spread, they multiply, and they expand the microbe's ability to resist our precious medicines. So we have to curb unnecessary use of antibiotics wherever we can. That's our best hope for preserving modern medicine. The legislation passed today or being signed today will give consumers an important new tool for leveraging marketplace forces to drive change in the industry. And bottom line, this is a really big deal. So we are very proud to be here. We really appreciate the leadership from the people standing behind me. I want to thank Mayor Lee, Supervisor Sheehy, and the directors and staff of the Departments of the Environment and Public Health. Congratulations to all of us.
Thank you, Jonathan, and I think we're ready to do the signing.
Okay. Let's get the information flowing. There you go.